Welcome everyone to the July Black Mountain Board of Aldermen meeting. At this time, I'd like to ask you to turn off your cell phones and beepers. Make sure they're turned off, please. We have sign-up sheets if you wish to speak tonight. They're at the door over here. If the item is on the agenda, hold up to speak. Don't speak under citizen comments. Speak under the agenda item when it comes up. I think it'll be more productive for all if you'll do that. Anyone that hasn't signed up that wants to sign up, we'll bring the paper to you. Raise your hand. Okay, I guess everyone's signed up. Alderman Rayburn will not be here tonight. He has a job conflict. This time I'd like for us to stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'd like to call on Reverend Scott Oxford from St. James Episcopal Church to do our invocation.
Let us pray. Almighty God, send down upon those who hold office in this town the spirit of wisdom, charity, humility, and justice, that they may faithfully serve the well-being of all people. And look down with compassion, we pray, upon this whole community. Take away any fears over which we may stumble. Break down any walls that may separate us. Unite us in the bonds of your reconciliation. And work through our struggles to accomplish your purposes here on earth, so that in your good time, all peoples and races may serve you in harmony in this world and the next. We pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Be seated, please. We have several proclamations and recognitions tonight. I've asked Alderman Sobel to help with this first proclamation if he'd read it. I've been losing my voice. It's on Lyme disease.
Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Whereas infected ticks carrying the bacteria Borrelia burgdorferi, which causes Lyme disease, continue to spread throughout North Carolina, whereas the total numbers of both suspected and confirmed Lyme disease cases to be reported to our health department continues to rise each year, with over nearly 900 cases reported in 2010. Additionally, the Center for Disease Control estimates that Lyme disease may be underreported by a factor of 10 to 1 over actual cases. Whereas the North Carolina Division of Public Health now encourages physicians and healthcare professionals to consider the diagnosis of Lyme disease in patients who present the symptoms of infection, even if the patient has no travel history outside of North Carolina. Whereas Lyme disease is difficult to diagnose because it imitates other conditions and no reliable laboratory test can prove who is either infected or bacterial free, which often leads to underdiagnosis or misdiagnosis. And whereas early indicators of infection include flu-like symptoms characterized by chills, headache, fatigue, muscle and joint aches, and swollen lymph nodes. And whereas weeks or months later, patients untreated or undertreated Lyme disease can suffer from permanent and sometimes life-threatening damage to the brain, joints, heart, eyes, liver, spleen, blood vessels, and kidneys. And for this reason, it is imperative that all who may be exposed to Lyme receive immediate treatment. Whereas the best solution to reduce the risk of contracting Lyme disease is awareness and education about the seriousness of the illness, and the need for residents, especially children, to practice personal preventive techniques when engaging in outdoor activities such as frequent tick checks, use of tick repellent, and proper tick removal. And whereas the warm summer months are considered the most active time for ticks, and where the majority of residents are exposed to ticks during mountain activities, now therefore I, Carl R. Bartlett, Mayor of the Town of Black Mountain, do hereby call upon the citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their awareness of Lyme disease in an effort to minimize it and to encourage obtaining medical treatment immediately. Signed this 18th day of July, 2011.
Carl, I'd like to clarify something. When I received that suggestion for the proclamation from the Buncombe County Health Department, I serve on a committee with the Health Department, and they sent this out, and I felt that it was very important, particularly to the residents here in Black Mountain, because we have so much wooded area, and particularly when school's out, children are playing out in the yard, animals are playing out in the yards as well. And there has been in the past a fairly strong epidemic of Lyme disease. So I felt it important to get this out as much as we could to the public. And that's one reason that I asked the town manager to put this proclamation on the agenda for tonight.
It's my honor now to recognize one of our youth, and probably if we've ever recognized one that's deserving of being recognized with a proclamation, it's this young lady. Whereas the people of Black Mountain and Swananoa Valley desire to commend and honor our youth who make outstanding accomplishments and become an integral part of our community. And whereas Taylor Fisher, granddaughter of Black Mountain residents Ted and Joy Minnick, has excelled as an Owen High student athlete, receiving numerous awards in softball, volleyball, and basketball. And whereas Taylor has participated in various community high school activities, a volunteer with Evelyn Charities, spending 7 to 8 hours a week supporting the needy. And whereas even as important, Taylor has participated in the Beta Club, meeting the academic requirements of 3.8 GPA, while being involved in numerous community service projects. And whereas Taylor Fisher was recently honored as WLOS TV Person of the Week on June the 3rd, 2011. And whereas Taylor has spent the last few years volunteering with the American Cancer Society, Relay for Life organization, Swananoa Valley Christian Ministry, as well as other numerous volunteer organizations. And whereas we as a community are extremely proud of Taylor's athletic abilities, being recognized for best defense, best offense, and all conference for the past 3 years. Now, I, Carl Bartlett, Mayor of the town of Black Mountain, and on behalf of the Board of Aldermen and all our citizens, we extend congratulations and recognition as she continues her education and athletic talents at Gardner-Webb University. Taylor, if you'd come forward, please. Taylor, the board won't give me very much money to give awards that I have to pay for. But, you know, here in the mountains, there's a saying, if you can't run the big dogs, don't get off the porch, or you're getting the mayor's big dog award tonight. Where's the chief at?
The police chief isn't, or
Chief right there. Fire chief.
fire,
Fire chief.
Steve. The mayor is requesting you.
Hand me these white
Mr. Mayor, it's always a pleasure to be able to recognize employees who go above and beyond. We have a number of employees to recognize this evening, and I'd like to start first with Mark Combs, our Public Services Director, who was recently honored at a statewide convention of his peers it was the American Public Works Association and managers in the public works world throughout the state. And I believe you have an award to recognize Mark.
I do. Distinguished Service Award to F. Mark Combs for outstanding service and promotion of the North Carolina chapter of APWA, always reflecting the highest standards of professionalism, presented June 13, 2011. Mark, thank you.
Yes, I'd like to ask Sergeant Thomas Lytle to come forward, please, in recognition of receiving an advanced law enforcement certificate.
Cool.
State of North Carolina Department of Justice, Criminal Justice Education and Training Standards Commission, to all to whom these presents may come greeting. Be it known that in recognition of the attainment of training and educational objectives commensurate with the role of a professional criminal justice officer and of personal devotion and service to the people of North Carolina, the Attorney General and the Chairman and members of the North Carolina Criminal Justice Education and Training Standards Commission, through the authority rested in them by the laws of the state of North Carolina, do hereby award to Thomas L. Lytle this advanced law enforcement certificate.
And we have Officer Daniel Denton here also, who is receiving his traffic enforcement investigation certificate.
This is the State of North Carolina Department of Justice, the North Carolina Justice Academy issues this certificate, thereby certifying that Daniel Todd Denton has completed the prescribed specialized hours in the Traffic Enforcement Investigation Certificate Program. It's 13th day of June, 2011.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to recognize someone who has provided a great deal of service to us this summer. I'd like to introduce our summer intern, Dion, if you'd come step forward. Dion Lytle is a native of Black Mountain. He has a degree from Western Carolina University and spent 10 years working in the area of sociology and social services, but he has gone back to North Carolina Central University in Durham to work on his Master's of Public Administration, and I might add he has a 3.92 average in graduate school. Dion is, part of his training is to provide 300 hours of service in an internship with a local government, and Dion's future plans are to serve as a facilities manager, hopefully with a government agency. He has worked very hard for us this summer. You'll hear from him a little bit later on the agenda, working with facilities management issues. He has worked on our golf course renovations. He is dealing with some engineering concerns with our public safety building and has been staffing our ADA transition committee. So we are grateful for his service and appreciate his being with us this summer.
I want to recognize those outgoing board and commission members with a certificate of appreciation, and also I think we'll have a gift on them, Marcia. First of all, ABC Board, John Woody Sobel. Greenways Commission, John McNair. Historic Preservation Commission, Susan Sellers. Housing Commission, Connie Pruitt. Housing Commission, Joanne Brannon. Planning Board, Ron Collins. Recreation Commission, Clay Howe. Urban Forestry Commission, Susie Smith. Zoning Board of Adjustment, Don Farrell.
I guess they have to flip them to me.
At this time, we'll give the oath of office to the newly appointed board and commission members. If you'd step forward as I call your name out. ABC Board, Deborah Wooten. Greenways Commission, Julia Weatherford. Greenways Commission, Ann Lutz. Planning Board, Michael Raines. Recreation Commission, John DeWitt. Recreation Commission, James Halverson. Recreation Commission, Don McMahill. Urban Forestry Commission, Joyce Schwartz. Urban Forestry Commission, Joe Tomaszek. Zoning Board of Adjustment, Jerry Adkins. Zoning Board of Adjustment, Michael Samadinet. Always. Solomonides. Zoning Board of Adjustment, Laurie Young Swan. Zoning Board of Adjustment, Rachel Allen. And Zoning Board of Adjustment, Alan Arcana. We need to give those, each one of these. Rosa. Let's give them what it matters. It should be a name on them, I think. I'm not sure. Some's not here. He's not here. Joyce? She's not here. Joe? Swan. Allen, Rachel Allen. Allen. Okay, if you'd repeat after me, insert your name as I, your name. Do solemnly and sincerely affirm that I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the United States of America and of the state of North Carolina, that I will in all respects observe the provisions of the Charter and ordinances of the town of Black Mountain, and will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a member of the town of Black Mountain, North Carolina. Congratulations. If you would sign those and leave them with the town clerk, please. We sincerely thank each of you for volunteering to be on these boards and commissions. Our town could certainly not operate as efficiently as it does without those volunteers. We probably have close to 260 total volunteers within our government. I do not have the list of those who want to speak. Okay, at this time, we'll have citizen comments. And once again, we'll have a part on the agenda that will address the transitional housing, and you'll be allowed to speak at that time. First of all will be Bruce Bartlett.
Yes, I'm a property owner on Carolina Heights. I own a duplex up there, and quite some time for the past 20 years I've had problems of the water pressure, and there's significant families that lives there, about 15 families, and all of us don't have the water pressure that we deserve. There needs to be something done about this. I don't know if it's go to Monterey, get water across the boundaries for us. I mean, I know they coincide with each other. Something needs to be done about this, because, you know, it's just the right thing to do. Regardless of what the law is, to have pressure at the meters, it's just the right thing to do. I appreciate it.
Mary Leonard White, Town Square. In regard to his comments, let's have Mark to take a look and put that on the agenda for next month, what kind of options we have on that.
Certainly.
Okay. You wanted to comment on the Town Square?
Yes.
Don't talk about transitional housing at this time, if you would.
He's trying to shut me up. Mayor and members of council, thank you for hearing us. I would like to speak about the town square. It's been an issue for some time, and that I have been involved with us for some time, and many of you will want to speak about various aspects of the town square. But the thing that I would like to emphasize is the issue of the town square as an investment, as an economic investment in the town of Black Mountain. The advantage of having a tourist economy is that whatever makes the tourists happy and makes the tourists come to town and spend money in our town also makes the residents happy. If the town looks beautiful, as it has for the past few years, then people want to come here and and belong here and spend their money here, and that's fine. And the people who live here enjoy the flowers around the corners and everything that makes our town beautiful. And a town square would do exactly that. When people drive up the hill, they would see the mountains and they would gasp just like all of us do. All of us who've lived here for a while, you drive around a corner and you see, oh my gosh, there's the beauty of the mountains. You lift up your eyes into the hills and it lifts your soul. And that's exactly what the town square property can do for us and for our guests. And it will bring more money into the town. And anything that brings money to our merchants helps us with our property taxes, and it makes us all happy. So I hope that the Board of Aldermen will continue to hold the town square property for planning and let us move on with that as the town square commission has been doing. It's just an important thing to happen to our town. Thank you.
I failed to mention, we do have a 3-minute limit on speaking, but we have a what would you call this? We have a green light and an orange light, and a red light means you guys sit down. Carter Blaisdell.
Carter Blaisdell at 313 Hiawassee, been there about 20 years. Mr. Mayor, Aldermen, fellow citizens. I'm here to speak to the town square and would like you to preserve it for a park and some parking, with a great majority for the park. I think the value, we've just heard some aspects of the value, would be that if artistically designed and landscaped, would be a signature symbol of our community, a gathering place for all citizens, a beautiful view as people enter the town upon which they could have an inspiring moment, and a place where artists could put on canvas. I'm sure that would be something that would be spread around and make Black Mountain well known. As far as the cost concerns, I'd like to be volunteer myself as one of many, I'm sure, who would be willing to voluntarily, maybe over a 3 to 5 year period of time, be glad to contribute to a fund to pay for the $2.1 million that you invested and save those hundreds of thousands of dollars that are due over the next, say, 18 years, whatever the figure is, up until 2030, saving the town quite a bit. And that's about all I have to say, but thank you for your time and allowing us to speak to these issues.
Thank you.
Thank you for your offer, Carter.
Harry Hamel.
My name is Harry Hamill. I live at 15 John Meyer Avenue. My wife and I operate the Black Mountain Farmers Market at 151 South Ridgeway Avenue. I've been back 29 years. I lived here when I was a teenager also. I also served for 3 years on the planning board. Ended up being the chair of the planning board at the end of my term there. During that period, this town was approached City Line about the development of that property. And it missed for the second time the opportunity to take advantage of the committee structure that this town has established, and which it has just talked about how wonderful the committee structure is, but it doesn't use it in the way in which it is designed to be used. We've had this property under consideration now 4 times in the time that I know of, from the First Citizens Bank to the City Line brokerage to the deal that was cut to create this to the buying of it. And not a single time has this Board of Aldermen ever taken advantage of the committee structure of this town, approaching the planning board, approaching the Historic Preservation Committee, and also the downtown businesses via business to business and the Chamber of Commerce. We don't show that we have any interest at the board level of getting an organized way of considering this property. Had there been that, I think that we would not be in the situation that we're now in, because there would have been one time a process where those of us like myself who have very strong feelings about this property and can dot I's and cross T's in terms of providing information would have had the opportunity to provide that information to the town. So you can talk all you want about the use of our committees, but if you don't use them, they're a waste of everyone's time, and those, in particular, those of us who volunteered for those committees. Thank you.
Thank you. David Madden.
While it is true that I own Black Mountain, along with my wife and son and 9,000 other citizens in this democracy, I, like most other citizens, am not equally interested in all aspects of this town, but there's some aspects that profoundly concern all of us as owners of Black Mountain. Now, this body's sudden vote to consider selling the town square property is definitely one of those profound concerns. We expect each of you, our elected officials, therefore, to inform us from the very start of this process. Instead, misinformation and rumors rule in your place. And what's clear to me as one of those owners is that I'm totally opposed to selling my town square property. And I feel certain that a vote of a majority of the other 9,000 owners will line up behind me. I only wish the some 100,000 annual tourists who come here each year could vote. Because, and they come repeatedly, because they come here to walk in the traditional hometown atmosphere. It follows then that a shocking new building at the town square, the crossroads, the heart of our town, such a large plot would diminish their desire to return, and there would be many people who would advise them not to come because the place is not what it used to be. They won't come and spend money, and money is at the heart of what we're talking about. The long-term negative consequences are clear to any citizen, and the profit is as short-term as your terms in office.
Thank you. Don Gill.
Mayor and Board, I delivered this report to you on June 28th at a morning budget meeting, but I would just like to read it for the folks here. This is a recap of what happened June 22nd through the 24th when the consultants were in town. Consultants for Martin, Alexo, and Bryson were in town along with the landscape design team to look at the streets and intersections surrounding and adjacent to the town square property. Of primary interest was the intersection of Broadway/Montreat Road and State Street. This is a brief synopsis of what happened during that time. Public events were well attended on Wednesday evening and Friday evening, and also Thursday evening at the Park Rhythms event. Approximately 150 people stopped by to talk to the consultants and to talk to Town Square committee members who were there as well. There was a lot of interest, and my goodness, it was a lot of fun just talking to the folks to see what their ideas were for the property. A concept illustration was drawn of a public park on the corner with a small parking lot adjacent to Honeycutt Street, immediately in front of the public safety buildings. And then there was new commercial buildings that were on the east end where Squeakies used to be. Then the concept illustration was not really part of what the team was assigned to do, but they had heard from so many people that came through what their ideas were for the property. This naturally sprang up when you have artistic people together. That's what they're going to do, draw things, and that's what they did. So they presented that on Thursday evening and again on Friday evening at the public reveal. All in all, the people that saw that received it well because they began to see what the property could become. And I think that's what the stir is now. Some of us have a vision for what the property can be, but yet we haven't gotten far enough into the process to delineate that yet. At any rate, recommendations that they made were Montreat Road and Broadway realignment, Shift Montreat Road to the east about 15 feet into the town square property to align it better with Broadway without completely straightening the intersection. Montreat Road would angle back to its existing alignment so as not to encroach on the public safety buildings. This change enables NCDOT to reconfigure the lanes in such a way that traffic light cycle length is shortened, crosswalks are shortened, and turning movements are slowed. Parking. Remove a few parking spaces on West State Street for safety reasons. Relocate north side parking to the south side of West State Street for safety reasons, and to improve right turns from eastbound State Street to southbound Broadway. That's primarily for trucks that ignore the sign to say no right turn, because they do make right turns there and they make a mess. So by shifting the lanes over about 12 or 14 feet would make it easier for them to get around the corner. Change diagonal parking on Broadway to parallel parking in order to improve safety for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. And then new on-street parking would be added on East State Street along the north side adjacent to the town square property. Sidewalks. Replace some of the brick sidewalks with level concrete sidewalks that feature brick accents is a recommendation they made for safety reasons. A 15-foot wide sidewalk is recommended along East State Street on the town square side, plus an 8-foot planting strip that will allow the town to plant nice shade trees far enough away from moving traffic on State Street to satisfy NCDOT. The shade trees and the wide sidewalk will help to buffer pedestrians and anyone sitting on the sidewalk, benches, and tables from truck noise. As you know, once the freezers are finished down at Ingalls, the traffic will increase dramatically down State Street. In fact, one of the studies that was done said that there could be as many as one truck per minute to 2 minutes going up and down State Street. So that's one of the reasons that we want to have that wide buffer zone there. A wide... Am I out of time?
You got 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll hurry, Carl. A wide sidewalk and planting strip are also recommended for the town square side. The consultants will be back August, September to give a final report to the board. They strongly recommended that the aldermen hold off selling the property until a recommendation comes back and the improvements are done.
Thank you. Thank you for chairing that committee work.
Thank you, Carl.
I'd like to ask a question of Marcy. Marcy, did this board not agree to hold off on any further decision until the report was back, so that there is no decision as to sell it, there's no price being put on it, no nothing? We're waiting for that report to come back, and you agree this was what we voted on. One other thing, has Harry left? I think he's gone. I want to read, Harry, we do have a committee. Tom Gill is chairing that committee you spoke about, and there's, I didn't know if you, since you've been out of town, I didn't know.
No, I knew that, John. Okay. What I'm saying is that that's what we do. We create a separate committee instead of utilizing the existing committees. The planning board is supposed to handle planning matters. The historic preservation committee obviously should have a say as far as this is concerned. And we're not using the existing committees.
There's a member, though, from each one of our boards and commissions on that committee Tom chairs.
Marilyn Sapansky.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to address the town square property from a personal perspective, so many of the other angles have been so well covered already. I had lived in New England for 4 years, and one of the most distinctive things about towns in New England was that they had a town square. They varied quite a bit. Some were just grassy plots, pretty simple, but a large area where people could meet, gather, there could be activities. Others had the major buildings, the bank, the post office, the town hall around them. And they varied greatly, but they each had them. And it marked the core of the town and kind of gave a sense of community, a sense of identity. I found that considerably attractive. I think that we really need to have that kind of space in our downtown for the same reason, a sense of community, a safe, open area that's central to the part of town. You know, we can walk on sidewalks and there's little places, but to have a larger place that everyone is welcome to be at would be very favorable. A place where you can meet your neighbors, your fellow business workers, visitors as well, and would be relaxing, a bit of green in the heart of town. In other words, pleasant and people-friendly. I feel strongly that we need to preserve this property for that use, and also for parking. It has been said, even at town meetings over the years, and I remember very distinctly hearing business owners saying, we need more parking. What I would like to mention too is there was an article in Money Magazine in August 2009 about the 100 best places to live. And cutting short to the point of things, they weighed all the factors of what the American public values. And what I was intrigued by were little boxes that they had. They itemized or elaborated on the top 10. And there were little boxes that had about the pluses and the minuses. And so for the top 10 winners, the pluses included lots of green space, lots of open space, small town charm, close to big town amenities. I mean, what more could you say about Black Mountain already? Innovative layout, great natural beauty. We have those things. The minuses included a lackluster downtown or no real downtown. Well, we have a very charming historic downtown, but you know, we really could use a space that's central as well, that's big enough for all people to meet, and they don't have to be a patron of a particular place to sit in a courtyard or on that bench or in that area. The consultants talked about a sense of place, and that seems to be a very common and popular term these days. I think that that property, with the views that it has, need to be capitalized on. And quite frankly, I think a town square with a mountain view, an attractive setting, which could evolve over time, would be far more memorable to visitors and to residents alike than a cluster of retail or business buildings. So let's come together with a can-do attitude and continue to keep Black Mountain charming and beautiful. It has a lot to offer, and I think a public space in the heart of town would add to the beauty and the charm and the attractiveness. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that concludes, other than those who want to speak on transitional housing. Transitional housing, when it comes on the agenda, it's a state agenda item, so there will not be a time limit for you folks. This time, consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, we actually have communications first. Do you want to take yeah? So the very next item on the agenda is a presentation from the Swananoa Valley Transitional Housing Corporation. I'd like to ask Gay Baker, the president of that board, to come forward. She also has accompanying her Lynn Deese, who is a board member, and Carol Dalton, chaplain.
Well, my name is Gay Baker, and I am the president of the Swananoa Valley Transitional Housing Committee. Thank you for letting us speak to the Board of Aldermen today. First, we would like to thank the town for the generous donation of transportation so that the ladies can get to their jobs and to school. We'd also like to acknowledge the town staff in the professional way that they have handled the request for information and their knowledge of town regulations. Mostly, we would like to thank the residents of Black Mountain for their amazing generosity. The Swananoa Valley Transitional Housing has not used any of our cash donations to furnish this house, nor for the labor in fixing it up. Thank you to the wide base of churches and the countless number of individual volunteers. To mention only a few, the Black Mountain Methodist Church supplied the labor to replace the worn-out flooring. The Carpet Barn in Weaverville donated all the new floor covering. The ladies of the Montreat Presbyterian Church, USA, are decorating a bedroom, and the ladies of the Swananoa First Baptist Church are decorating a bedroom. Mills Chapel Baptist Church and the St. James Episcopal Church are each having a pounding to stock the pantries with staples. The Swananoa Valley Christian Ministry Mission Work Team and the Asheboro Baptist Men's Mission Team came together for a week and cleaned up the yard. I cannot leave without thanking our board of directors. They have worked tirelessly to make this home happen, and they should be very proud of their accomplishment. And thank you to our neighbors for their concern. I would like to introduce Lynn Deese. She will address your concerns. Lynn will tell you about the Swannanoa Transitional Housing Committee and its mission.
Thank you. We feel it's very important for the entire community to know exactly what the house is and what we are planning and what we are doing. The Swannanoa Valley Transitional Housing Committee is a nonprofit organization formed to provide a source of post-release housing appropriate for the safe and effective reentry into the community for the women released from the Swannanoa Correctional Center for Women. We are completely community supported. Residents will come directly from the SCCW, Swannanoa Correctional Center for Women, to the transition house. Since the women are free, they have been released from prison, they can choose where they want to live. So they can choose to come to our house. Those coming to the house will be dedicated to making a fresh start and to becoming productive citizens and good community members. They could live anywhere they want to. They can live around the corner, down the street, across the lane, wherever they want to live. There will be a selection process for the ladies that come to our house by the committee to determine who will be allowed in the house. No sex offenders will be accepted. We will have only 6 women at a time. Their length of stay will be individualized depending on the needs of each woman. We have hired a 24/7 live-in house manager that will supervise the residents and maintain adherence to all of our house regulations. And the residents will sign a form that says they will abide by our house rules and regulations. We also have several qualified substitutes to fill in for our house manager when she needs to be on vacation or have some time off. And our house manager, Jill Rand, is here with us tonight. The house will have a curfew, supervised visitation of residents, guests, and absolutely no alcohol or drugs permitted on the premise. Any violation of the house regulations or rules will cause for immediate expulsion from the house. We will provide the residents with re-entry life skills in order to help them become self-sufficient and prevent their going back to prison. When they come out of prison, they've been there for however X number of years, and they come with nothing. They've got to have resources, and if they don't have resources and help, they're very, very likely to end up back in prison. We want to help cut this recidivism rate. The first 48 hours are the most critical, and if a woman has a safe place and basic help for the first 3 months of post-release, she is 95% less likely to go back to prison. Our house will provide this type of help, thus saving the community and the taxpayers. We will help the women by providing housing, transportation, applying for scholarships and grants for further education if they need this, if they need to learn some skills in order to get a job that can support them adequately. We can help them with skills for job hunting, resources available to help them when they leave the house, and any other services or skills that they need to become independent, productive citizens. From our community support base, which has been unbelievable, we have volunteers and mentors available to help each resident as needed, in addition to the house manager and transitional house board. Carol Dalton, Chaplain Carol Dalton, will be helping and working with us, and she has some further comment.
Mr. Mayor and Board, just very briefly, let me say that it has been my pleasure to serve as one of the chaplains at Swannanoa, at our local women's prison. It's not always been Swannanoa, for the past 4 years. First of all, I want to thank you, the residents of Black Mountain. You have been such good neighbors to us. There's simply no way that Lynn Mitchie and I could meet the spiritual needs of all of the women who are residents at the correctional center. It's only because of you and other people like you in this community that we're able to meet the needs of these women while they are incarcerated. Not only that, but without the support of you good citizens and the people of this valley, there wouldn't be chaplains in the first place, because you all pay our salary. Those relationships of volunteers with inmates, of inmates with chaplains, and of chaplains with volunteers help these women leave prison with the desire to be good citizens. Some of them just need a little extra help. You see, it's through their observations of relationships while they're out on community volunteer passes, in our churches, in our restaurants, at the welcome table, at their jobs, or walking around Lake Tomahawk, or maybe even sitting in a park, that they begin to see a different way of being and of behaving. They begin to see the possibilities of living a clean and sober life. They begin to realize they really do need to change their people, places, and things, and that's what we spend all of our time telling them. A transition house in this community is the very thing that some of these women need. These women who've been working and worshiping and eating and shopping and walking right alongside all of you, and you don't know who they are. It's what they need to truly become citizens, the people that I want living next door to me. You see, they're all going home. They're going home somewhere at some point. Do we want them more prepared to be our neighbors or less prepared to be our neighbors? We have an opportunity to help them truly transition from prison a little more slowly, with some structure, with some guidance, and with some continued contact with their mentors, so that they can be successful. Thank you.
Does that conclude the presentation? Okay. This time, call, as you signed up in order, Joe Friddle.
Mr. Mayor, Board, neighbors, I'm Joe Friddle. I live at 221 Pine Grove Road in Black Mountain, just outside Black Mountain. I don't need notes to tell you what I think or how I feel, but they'll help keep me brief, and I'm confident even the people whose opinion may be different will be grateful for that. For 13 years, I've been a pastor of First Christian Church on Blue Ridge Road, and for well over half that time, we have been directly involved with Black Mountain Correctional Center for Women, Swannanoa Correctional Center for Women, with on-site and off-site programs, and with numerous individuals who have become regular participants in our church's life. It has been an overwhelmingly positive experience for us, and we are grateful to have had the chance to be involved in the way that we have been. I want to be very clear that we are and intend to remain advocates for these women and the programs and opportunities that can assist them to plot a new direction in their lives. As a minimum security facility, it is the place where many will conclude their time of incarceration, and for many there is no home to which to return. For many others, home is not a safe place, but a place filled with the things that contributed to the problems that brought them here. I want to publicly commend those who have been working and continue to work diligently for the establishment of this transitional housing. Gay and all those who are working with you, all those that you have already mentioned and given credit and praise to. And for the town that has lent support and information in a tangible way. All to provide a place where women who are honestly looking for the opportunity to turn things around have an environment that will support them in their effort rather than undermine. I am happy to be identified with many other supporters of this project, and am willing to talk personally with anyone who has misgivings or fears about my experience and our experience as a congregation. And thank you, Lynn and Carol, for the work you are doing and continue to do. Thank you.
John Stevens.
Good evening, and I thank you for allowing me to have this platform. My wife heard something in the back. There was a limited 3 minutes. Is that
Not on the agenda item. And this is an agenda item, so you can exceed the 3 minutes.
I was trying to compress it all into 3 minutes. That would be kind of hard to funnel it all into 3 minutes for the concerns that we have. My name is John Stevens, and myself and my wife, we own the property at 99 Kent Street, which is directly adjacent to the house in question tonight. And my wife and 2 cats and I have lived there for 5 years. We are medical professionals in the community. We buy local, and we moved to Black Mountain thinking it was a quiet, safe place to move to. While there's others here in the community tonight that are here with the same concern, and again, I'd like to thank you all for your time. Recently, when I was mowing my yard, I noticed that there was a house that's directly adjacent to us that was for sale. And the for sale sign had come down. And there had been dozens of vehicles coming and going, all these people, and I just asked a gentleman what was going on. And he told me, in his words, that they're turning into a halfway house for women. Needless to say, this was news to me, and he asked me if he could take my number and give it to his people for them to get in touch with me. I said that would be fine. I didn't hear back from them, but I decided to take the initiative since I thought it was news to me. Maybe I would inform the community that this was going on, and I was not surprised to see that it was quite a surprise to everybody that I spoke with. Nobody knew about this house being what it was and where it was at all. And I do have several concerns about all of this. And I do know that there's representatives tonight on behalf of the house, and at the end of my presentation I have a little something to say to them. It may surprise and interest them, actually. To listen to them, of course, they want to emphasize the positive, the mission statement of the facility, what they hope to achieve, the good they're trying to do for society, the opportunity they're going to give the poor and downtrodden felons of society. And we quickly wonder why anybody would ever want to go against something like this. Various comments I've gleaned from neighbors who have overheard their comments, the house's comments, plus what I've heard tonight, says that they carefully screen applicants, have 24-hour supervision, they have strict rules, a contract that has to be signed as part of the program, various other reassurances to tickle our ears. Then I realized that all this sounds somewhat familiar. It's just like listening to the program director at the rehab facility where I work with patients in transition. And that is why I have serious concerns, because I do this for a living myself. Where I work, applicants are carefully screened, they have 24-hour supervision and sign a contract claiming they will obey the rules, which turns out to be worth less than the ink that is used to write on the paper. We still receive inappropriate patients who go through the motions just to make it to the next day. We try our hardest to deal with the problems there, which happen every day, and we receive mandatory training, including self-defense courses, de-escalation techniques, and drills on what to do when there is an emergency. If there is a house sitter with these people, what training do they get? Give us a call the police? I'm not sure. We have had several elopements recently. We always had, where I work, we always have people leaving against medical advice. In a nutshell, these people want to go back to their old scene within a week or two. An article of concern From the New Jersey Today, which is the New Jersey's oldest weekly periodical, 7 privately owned halfway homes between January 2008 and March 2009 averaged 1 escape every 2 days over a 15-month period. That's over 200 in Trenton, New Jersey, 7 halfway homes. Okay, let's reduce that, let's do some division. It doesn't end up to being 201 escapes in that time period. But do we want that in Black Mountain, where I live, where you live, where there's kids and retirees? Is that what you want? Well, that's what they're pushing for. Now back to where I work. Hard to believe that these carefully screened individuals wanted our services so bad and wanted to be good little citizens just a few days before. Maybe the new facility in town wants to say it's unfair to compare their place with where I work. Maybe so. We have 24-hour video surveillance. We have medical doctors, social workers, psychologists, and 24-hour on-site nursing care with facility police on site. Do they? Maybe it is unfair to compare. The fact is, for society, and if this place comes in, our neighborhood in Black Mountain will not be dealing with the high apple pie in the sky hopes for a facility. We will have to deal with the reality of it, that there are problems. This does affect the safety, security, and appeal of the town, which many children and elderly citizens already worry about the safety of their lives here, can just worry just a little bit more now. Another concern is potential code infractions at the house in question. Now, I was told by the planning department here that the house in question had been cleared by zoning to proceed with its plans. I couldn't help but remember when my wife and I remodeled our home. The inspector for the town was a frequent visitor to our home. Everything had to be up to code. Believe you me, he did a thorough job. I can say that. One of the last things he looked at was the height of the window openings in the bedroom in case we needed to evacuate in an emergency. And I told him, sir, that's the way they were when the house was built in 1969. Oh no, we're going to measure them. They were up to code, fortunately. I have not had time since July the 4th to do extensive research on the codes of Black Mountain. I have alerted the community to this development, worked full time, went to my religious events, washed the dishes, balanced the checkbook, fed the cats, tried to spend some quality time with my wife. But it is my understanding that a structure cannot be within 10 foot of a power pole. It is my understanding that a structure cannot be within 10 foot of a property line. This property is about 12 inches from a power pole, and a neighboring landowner says that part of the house sits on his property. So, if these are the codes, why aren't they being enforced? Just as my window openings couldn't be grandfather claused in, how in the world could something like this go through and be okay? Also, a final concern was a blatant lack of respect for our community. Upon further investigation, I was able to uncover the entity who owns the house and found their website, which featured an article from the Black Mountain News dated May 5th, stating they purchased a house in town. Oh, and didn't give the address, though. And it struck me. These people have owned the house for over 2 months before I found out by accident what was going on. They had no intention of telling the community. I believe it was a town manager, Marcy O'Neill, who said, Mr. Stevens, they don't have to. The entity who owns the house only approached anybody in the community after the cat was out of the bag. The next statement comes from an article that is actually in favor of these halfway transitional homes, Improving public safety through halfway houses, that's what they call it. What kind of voice should the public expect to have in the siting of these programs? And it reads, the public increasingly is asserting its interest in having a voice in citing an establishment of halfway house programs. Community halfway house managers have developed ways to address organized neighborhood opposition to the introduction of new programs that are viewed with suspicion. there is a need to let the neighbors know who the residents will be and who will be accountable if there is a problem. And until the cat was out of the bag, none of this was done at all. It makes me wonder, had I not been out mowing the yard, how long would it be before the neighborhood would have found out about this? Would we even be having this discussion tonight? Eventually, we would have found out, yes, eventually. But according to them, it's, don't tell nobody, hurry up. Don't. The proof is in the pudding. In conclusion, there are others here tonight that I do believe want to voice their concerns on this matter. But for those here who feel there's nothing to worry about with these houses and everything, I've got an offer for you. Buy my house. Go out on North Fork where this house is at. You see this house that's got barn red decking overlooking North Fork? We get a lot of compliments, you know, that we've worked really hard on it and remodeled it. Hardwood floors, rock fireplace, all that stuff. And you could live right next to this place. I'm serious. I would seriously want to, I may be 6'5", rather animated in ways, but I'd love to sit down with any serious buyer. I would. Because my house value just went through the basement. And that's another serious reality of this matter. So, you know, as for the aldermen here tonight, just to wrap it up, I thank you for your time. I've never been to a town meeting before. I appreciate you guys letting me talk. I just want to be a quiet citizen. But I just ask that you view this like it was happening to you. Because if you say that it's okay for this to happen in Black Mountain, think of this the next time a house next to you puts up a for sale sign. Thank you.
Thank you. Samantha Gibbs.
Thank you for letting me be here tonight. I've never been to a town council meeting, so this is my first. Judy Eubanks regrets not being able to be here tonight. I've talked to her extensively about this transition house. I believe transitional housing is good. I believe it's a good idea and a good thing, but not in a populated neighborhood. I believe, I live in the city. I'm a resident in my small neighborhood, and this is the last thing that I expected when I moved to Black Mountain, that I would be faced with a transitional house right in my backyard. Okay? I learned about this transitional housing from a neighbor. Okay? If this project was above board, why weren't the neighbors of our neighborhood notified by the Transitional Housing Committee? All these people that support it, why didn't anyone come to us and say, hey, what do you think? We're going to put this in your backyard. Any ideas? I would have sure loved to talk to them. Why did they sneak and buy property without any community knowledge or input? We were definitely not told about this. How can we trust that the housing project will not adversely affect our safety and our homes? How can we be assured of that? How can we trust that once this house is up and running, that actually the people will do the right thing running this house? Because they've not done the right thing so far. I understand women need help, and I am a medical professional myself. I help women every day. But I think the way this was brought and snuck into our neighborhood was not right. It was not professional, and it was not ethical. We deserved a chance to be notified. And that is really why I'm upset. I want the right thing to be done. I want safety of my house. I want my property value to stay good. But I think the women need help, but maybe in an area that is not in a close-knit neighborhood as ours. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Scott Oxford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Board. I'm here to speak in support of the transitional housing. And I find that I have been at St. James Episcopal Church as a priest for the last 8.5 years. Some people think it's 8.5 lifetimes, but it's only 8.5 years. And during that time, we have helped hundreds, served and known hundreds of women from the correctional center, and I have found no one more motivated to stay out of jail and to do the right thing and to contribute to society more than women who have experienced jail time themselves. I would like to also say that in terms of the resources and folks having a chance to go home, the truth is most of the women, or many, do not have a chance to go home. Some of the women are on their day of release are let go at 7 a.m. in the morning. If they do not have a church or a friend or family to meet them, then they just have to start walking. If it has not been for the initiative of individuals to try to help as best they can, overwhelming percentage of those women who do not have an opportunity to relocate end up back in prison, and that's the last thing we need worldwide. I would also like to say that I would like to consider this transitional housing as a chance for transformational housing, and I think that we as a community can work together to make things right. I can't speak for all the clergy, but I know that the ministers here in this community who love this community and serve this community are willing to do anything we can to make sure that the various codes are met, as well as appropriate protocol with family and neighbors. We'll do whatever we can to help this process work, because we have seen the effects, as Carol noted, the number of women who do not go back into prison, who become productive citizens, is amplified beyond our calculations. So anything that meets within the criteria of the ordinances and statutes of the city and permits, I think that we should be supportive, and I appreciate your time. And also, I'll go back with my brother Joe Friddle, and we'll make sure that all of the clergy leadership in this community are also willing to go the second mile in making this work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mimi Powell.
I'm just going to make it quick. I have both been a sponsor for many years and on board of the transitional housing, and I have personally got to know the women there at the prison, and I am 100% in favor of this transitional house. And I just want to tell you, to reiterate, I have actually been in the house when there's been at least 4 different churches in this valley represented there working together on one project. That's unbelievable kind of community support that I have really never seen, all doing their jobs and working hand in hand. And these ladies are going to be in the community. You can decide whether you want them roaming the streets or whether you want to try to help them better themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Powell.
Thank you for your time. My wife just spoke. We've lived here in the Swananoa Valley for 15 years. I retired from the Clearwater Police Department, where I put many people in jail. And I was hesitant at first when my wife got involved in being a sponsor and everything else. And I had many of the same fears and concerns, probably more so from a first-hand basis, and was worried about that. But after gradually over the years, I think she's been doing this with the sponsoring about 10 years or 8 years. It's not what you think. But I want to address one thing. It's not that this came in secretively. If the state of North Carolina didn't put the correctional center in our backyard, these prisoners wouldn't be here. So we can either stick our head in the sand and do nothing about it, and they'll be wandering the streets, as you've heard. Or we can try to put together a program to help them have successful reintegrate into the community. And I think it's so important, the recidivism rate for people coming out of prison, when we don't rehabilitate people in prison, what we traditionally do is make them a better criminal. So we have an opportunity here. The state of North Carolina has put this prison in our backyard. They've expanded the prison. What are we going to do as a community to make ourselves safer? I feel by having the transitional house, we're going to be safer than if we just release all these people when their prison sentences are over with no means of success. So, while some people may feel it was deceitfully done, the state moved it here. We're just addressing a problem that exists. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce McMahon.
Mr. Mayor, Aldermen, citizens, my name is Bruce McMahon. I live at 401 North Fork Road, which has the distinction of being the last house on North Fork in the city limits. And I live directly across the street from the transition house that we're talking about. As you've heard from, when you speak community, you're speaking community at large. I'm speaking community specific, those that live there where the transition house is going to be. There was no announcement, nobody came to ask. There was nothing done within the community other than us finding out from another neighbor that this house had been built. If you've looked in the paper, they did put some articles. There was nothing specific saying where it was going to be located or that there'd be anything done by the town to approach this problem that might be coming up. But anyway, another article in the paper states that they have a house manager, monitor, and ministers on call. And I know all of you get a warm, fuzzy feeling from all the churches, ministers, and organizations that are working with this. Well, I'm a Christian also, and there is a golden rule. These people and the town of Black Mountain have not followed the golden rule. They have not treated their neighbor like themselves. Now, you've heard a lot of words that affirm all the things that they're doing for these people. A lot of times, actions speak a lot louder than words. First time I noticed that something was going on at the transition house, there was a crew there of 6 or 7 people cleaning up in the evening one night. So I went on in the home. They were out there with lawnmowers, weed eaters, probably chainsaws, and then they left. Well, I have a long property line, and there's a lot of trees on the front of it. So I get up to drive into town next morning, and what have I inherited? Strung all across the front of my property line, but 5 truckloads of brush and trash from the transition house. Now, you would have thought if they were going to dump it on a neighbor that they would have at least called the town to find out what length it's supposed to be cut to and what diameter it's supposed to be. No, I had to take care of that, laying across the front of my property. Then I also had to call the town and schedule a pickup. So when you get this warm, fuzzy feeling about a transition house, I want you to ask yourself one question. Will you be as warm and fuzzy feeling if there's 6 ex-felons placed underhandedly next door to you? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Kent Logan. Who's coming? Right here, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Alderman, thank you for finally giving us an opportunity to speak with you. I'm not opposed to the house, theoretically or functionally, but I am concerned that I live on Daniel Lane, which is the community that it was being directly affected. And I was very concerned when I found out from the neighbor what was going on. It's not so much I'm opposed to the house. I'm just concerned that when people talk about community support, when people talk about community involvement, churches being involved and all that, I attend St. James, and I've heard about transitional housing, and I have the warm fuzzies about it, but I was never told where it is, and the people who are gathering community support never approached the community that is being affected. I would much rather have had some input about what the house is like, what the supervision is going to be like, because the success of the house is based upon supervision. And obviously many people are involved in this, and I just feel very strongly, I have some suspicions, like other people have mentioned, about the people who are actually doing this, if they're trying to solicit community support, I'm the community that is being impacted by your community involvement. And I like to think that everybody has everybody's best interest at heart. I want to trust the process, that this house can be successful, but I don't have any assurance right now that it will be successful. I know some of the people involved, so I assume, knowing those people, that there's a good chance it'll be successful, but without the people coming to my community, I do have a little suspicion and some concerns, and I would like for the folks who have talked about community support to offer to come talk with us in our community about the community support for this facility. It would just make me trust the process a lot more. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Terry Smith.
My name is Terry Smith, and I've lived in Black Mountain for 16 years, and I am a backdoor neighbor to this program that's being proposed here. Having run 2 residential treatment programs, group homes, halfway houses, boarding houses, whatever semantics we may want to use with this, but having run 2 of these homes for women for extended periods of time, I know the wonderful value there is in doing this. However, just saying that we want to make these people feel good about being good citizens, about being able to have a desire to go out and to participate in the world productively, has little to do with the hard work that is involved in it. A desire is only one part of it, only one little part of it. I was unable to hear a program of treatment. I was very concerned when I went and looked at this, and the first went online and looked, and it was described as working with women in recovery from alcohol and drugs, being in prison, abstaining from drugs and alcohol, even with the wonderful program that it looks like it is in education and teaching about jobs and all the things that are done while they are confined in prison. I applaud that, but that is not treatment for living without alcohol and drugs in the community. Having a manager, having assistant managers, having all this wonderful volunteer staff from the churches, a good heart and wanting this to happen is part of what we want. It is a great part of it. You have to have that desire. It's like you have to hold them up so that they can go forward. But if you don't have a strong program, if you don't have people that are trained in treating domestic violence, in treating drug and alcohol abuse, we just set these women up to fail. We set them up to fail. So I don't hear a program. I don't hear a manager that is qualified to work with drugs and alcohol. Now, maybe if we had these community meetings that Kent Logan is asking for, with those of us who are backdoor neighbors, front door neighbors, side door neighbors, maybe we'll hear that more. I hear of all the churches being involved, and that's great. But unless we have a program for these women, we can't just say there's no alcohol on the premises. What are you going to do when they go out and they come back drunk? They're going to come back to you. They may stay out overnight, but they're coming back because that's home. What do we do then? How do you handle this? What goes on with this? I don't hear the program, and I'm sure you must have one that addresses all this, but this is part of what concerns our community, that we have women who are coming in, that it seems like we all want to serve, but do we have a program to serve them, to help them to keep from relapsing? They said there'll be no sex offenders. I'm not worried about sex offenders. I'm worried about the boyfriends that show up from Charlotte, Fayetteville, Winston-Salem, that suddenly their woman's released and they're there and they're on your property. I have that all the time. We had to have a program in place. You can't just call the police because that woman's in contact with that man then. The drug dealer that this woman still owes $1,000 to, he's going to find out where she is. They're going to come. And that's okay. It calms down after a while. But you have to have a structure in place from the get-go. You can't put them in and then make it. It doesn't work. So that's my piece. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. That's all signed up. Lynn, would you like to address some of the issues that were brought up?
Just a couple of things, because I think we've pretty well gone over everything and most of the questions. As far as the programs, we are not providing programs, but we are providing information about the programs that are already in place, that are already available to the women in the Buncombe County area. We are providing transportation to those programs so that they can get what they need. It will be very individualized depending on what each woman needs. Broken rules, we have an immediate expulsion. If they come home drunk, they leave within 10 minutes. That we do not keep. There will be no ex-boyfriends or current boyfriends or anyone else in the house without being in the commons area at specific times when the house managers, they are under supervision, or they're not allowed to stay. This is part of it. And one reason we have not publicized the address is because of the ex-boyfriend issue. Many of the women do not want their former acquaintances to know where they are. And it is a matter of, could be a matter of not so much safety, but aggravation. So that's one reason we have not published the address of the house. Property values, cleaning up. The house had been empty for about 2 years. And you know how lush our mountains are. If I didn't do any yard work in my house for 2 years, you wouldn't know the house was there. And this house had ivy growing up through the gutters, up the sides of the wall. It was so completely overgrown that when the mission team from Swannanoa Ministerial Association, the work team that came, and they spent time cleaning up the yard and cleaning up the house, yes, there was a large pile of brush that had to be picked up. But the house now is a much better house in the neighborhood. As far as property values, I'd rather have a house that is well kept and clean and cared for next to me than one that's been empty and overgrown and tends to run down. Thank you.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to declare a 5-minute break. Once you get with these folks and line up a meeting to meet with them, okay? I think they'd appreciate that. We're going to do a 5-minute break. Call the meeting back to order. These have stated they'll find a location and a time and set it and advertise a meeting to get with all the neighbors up there. Urban Forestry Commission, annual report. Van, you still here?
I can't believe it. Y'all gonna be glad you saw me.
Yeah.
Right now. This is probably gonna take 1 minute, and then I'm gonna stretch the rest of it out on my farm.
Yeah.
We probably can't do that this time. I'm saying howdy to y'all and giving the report on Urban Forestry Commission for the year from July to June, July 2010 to June 2011. This is going to be, should I list the members of the commission? Should I? Okay. Well, that's me, Van Burnett, chairman. Pam Hohen, who is our, senior administrative assistant. Jerry Wicker, Susie Smith, Joyce Schwartz, Eric Wardall, and Mark Holmes is our town advisor, I think, would be the best thing to call. We followed up last year on the American chestnut trees we have planted down by the old watershed. That's been a concern because since we lost, or since our last public service director left, we are now looking at our American chestnuts down there. We have found that we still have chestnut trees down there, and we're addressing those and getting those ready to fix. That's part of the American Chestnut Society's planning that we're doing studies on whether or not this tree can be successfully restored to our forest. We had an assessment of hazardous trees down at Lake Tomahawk with Mark Holmes, Public Service Director and his staff, Jamie Matthews, along with former Parks and Recreation leader, I guess, Casey Connor, and we looked at the trees down there for possibilities of broken limbs and that kind of thing falling on people and dangers that could be associated with the trees. We've addressed all those, and we've removed dead trees and hanging limbs. So now you can walk safely around the lake without a limb falling on your head, thanks to us. 5 trees were removed and many trees were trimmed and to eliminate the hazardous conditions. The town-owned trees along Highway 9 were mulched by the Public Service. We try to keep up with the trees that need mulching. We looked at the apple trees at Riverside Park. We have a urban orchard down there, in case you didn't know. We're checking on those. We check on the trees that we planted at the elementary school, making sure those are mulched. The honey locust trees along Broadway were pruned. The Urban Forestry Commission had a project this year where we approximately, or gave away approximately 1,000 trees to the students at both the elementary and primary schools. This was part, we tried to coincide this with Earth Day, and we did a good job there. Everybody was happy. Those trees are now grown in people's yards all across the town of Black Mountain. The red bud trees were assessed along Highway 70. Again, another mulching project. We're making sure these things are cut down. And just recently approved and discussed with Marcy O'Neill, the Black Mountain Town Manager, to hold a Liberty Tree Memorial dedication at the Sourwood Festival. Liberty Tree Elm is a elm tree that has been in trouble. The elm tree has been in trouble. They've created a new type of elm trees here that are resistant to diseases, and we're dedicating one at the Sourwood Festival. We even have our own booth, which personally I will man unless these other people show up. So come by and see us for our big dedication. We will be right down by the tent where the big festival's coming, and make sure you come to the Hop and Blueberry Farm when you're done with that. But that pretty much wraps it up, Your Honor.
Thank you. You guys do a good job.
Thank you very much.
On the consent agenda, we deleted C, moved that to old business. This time, Marcy.
Yes, sir. We have adoption of minutes from all of your June meetings, including your regular meetings as well as the budget workshop sessions. Item B is a proposal to designate myself and Mark Combs as your agents to act on behalf of the town for the purpose of obtaining certain state and federal emergency relief funding for a generator. This is FEMA funding that goes back to the storms of a year ago. It would be a hazard mitigation grant. Item D is a request from the ABC Commission to change its meeting location from the store to Town Hall here in the boardroom. Same time, same dates, the 3 p.m. meeting every third Thursday would remain the same, but to be in this location.
Is there a motion to accept the presented? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business has been deleted. We move to old business. Tennis court update, case of comment.
Thank you, Board. Mayor, as far as the tennis court update, we did get prices on resurfacing the courts from a couple different contractors. Both of them were pretty expensive estimates. And after discussion with the Recreation Commission, they recommend that we don't put any more large amounts of money into the current tennis courts there at the lake, but rather start looking forward to moving the tennis courts eventually to Cragmont Park, which is what it's part of the master plan. As far as the legal aspect in contacting S&S Fence Company, Mr. Sneed can give you an update on that.
My approach on dealing with S&S on the tennis courts is not much different from what I told you last meeting. It appears that the work they did, as we know, is defective. What they proposed to do is nothing. There was some correspondence from them saying they had talked to somebody about the possibility of them providing pay for the material, we pay for the labor, and they do it again. But it appears from engineering reports that cases we going right back over the top of the same problem. I am going to attempt legally to collect a refund or money from this company since it tended to ignore all of its own application rules when doing that service.
So what's the next step?
The next step is with this, if they don't write me a check, which they're refusing to do, I'll be filing a lawsuit to collect that money. That's the legal end.
Will that be in the next 30 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Casey, you and I spoke before the meeting, and you know, folks have heard me talk about this before. As a matter of fact, S&S Fence Company even said it. You know, that one of the problems is the water. Of course, you had drilling that went down at the two corners, and then you went down in the center, or whoever you had to drill it did. You know, and of course, drilling on those corners found water, the actual water level being a couple of feet below. One of the things that they found in the center there that you told us was the fact that you had some saturated soil right underneath the gravel or the traffic bond that these courts were put on top of years and years ago. And I still think for the amount of money that we would spend, that is putting a French drain all the way around the whole court, would not take that much. It take more effort than it would actual money, because the only money would just be in buying the pipe, putting some gravel over it, putting that in the ground of a foot or so, and just seeing over a period of time if that will not go ahead and remove some of that moisture from the inside of those courts. Because I know that the Recreation Commission is saying, well, we'll build some courts down, at the Cragmont Park, and that's part of the master plan, and that sounds good, but we don't know where the dough's gonna come from.
Right, yeah, that's a long
There ain't no
term.
dough out there right now. So the best thing we could possibly do would be, especially if Sneak could get some money back from these guys, would be that if you could get those courts dried and then pay somebody to go ahead and possibly resurface them, that then they could maybe be functional for the next few years until maybe the economic situation could turn itself around, and then we could find some money. But I mean, it sounds great to build the courts at the Cragmont. I mean, but I'm all for that if someone wants to come up and write us a check, but we don't have the money in this budget for that.
No,
So I'll throw that out as a suggestion for you to take back to your commission to see if they could possibly, and maybe we could find, $300 to $400, whatever it would be for pipe and gravel. That's about all it would take for the actual cost of the gravel around it, and then just pipe that into the lake.
Yeah,
and see if it would dry out.
Mark Holmes actually, working with him, he's actually got a plan to do that. We were kind of waiting on the decision whether we were going to get it resurfaced or not, to put that into place. So I don't see that being a problem as far as getting that going.
Yeah, I hope y'all will do that. Good, thank you.
But Casey, we had so much micromanaging going on when Jim Orr was here, telling him one day to put a French drain in, the next day to dig a ditch around the tennis courts, and this will for sure work, and this will for sure work. And so I think it's time we listen to the professionals and go ahead and move it to.
Well, Ms. Brown, I don't think the recommendation coming forward was that we jump right out and do it. It's just that the Recreation Commission is looking at the amount of money it would take and what we know of subsurface conditions right now. If we were to make these good courts, those are building courts. What we're looking at is trying to find a way to keep these serviceable till there is money to move the courts. And the commission just doesn't want to put a whole lot of money in there that could just as well be spent for a new court. That won't solve our problem. We have subsurface conditions that are never going to go away with these courts. They're old enough that from the engineer's reports, there's an indication that the gravel base the asphalt's on is no longer firm. These courts can continue to crack no matter what we do. But and the hope is just to keep them somewhat surfaceable. And I don't think the recommendation was that we go out and build new tennis courts tomorrow, but that we not throw money at these that could be used for building new tennis courts down the road.
That's what I understood.
Any other questions, Casey? Thank you, Casey.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Citizens update, town attorney.
As told you at the last meeting, we're in the process of calling the bond. That is a multi-step process. The first is put the bond companies on notice. We intend to call the bond, and they provide us with what they want. What they think we need to prove, among the first step of that, the letters are out to the bonding companies, putting them on notice.
Okay. Any questions? Next is a proposal to approve resolution R-11-05, calling for an election or referendum to allow the voters of Black Mountain to determine whether mixed beverages should be allowed to be sold in the town of Black Mountain. Resolution is as follows. Whereas town merchants and citizens have asked the Board of Aldermen call for an election or referendum to allow the voters of Black Mountain to determine whether mixed beverages should be allowed to be sold in the town of Black Mountain. Whereas the town of Black Mountain is allowed to request an election on such a proposition by North Carolina General Statute, Section 18B-600E, as the town has at least 500 registered voters. Whereas the Board of Aldermen, without expressing a preference for the passage or failure of such election, but recognizing the undue burden of petition process by which the citizens could have this question placed on a ballot for the vote of the citizenry, wants to give the voters the opportunity to vote on this issue. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the town of Black Mountain, North Carolina, that the Board of Elections for Buncombe County be and is hereby asked to place upon the ballot for the general election be held for the town of Black Mountain, North Carolina in November 2011 to be voted on by the registered voters of the town of Black Mountain. That proposition is set out in North Carolina General Statute, Section 18B-602H, which reads, to permit the sale of mixed beverages in hotels, restaurants, private clubs, community theaters, and convention centers. That the town manager is directed to forward a copy of this resolution to the Buncombe County Board of Elections along with any paperwork and information as may be required by the Board of Elections. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carries 3-1. Town Attorney, you have any other communications?
No, sir.
Town Manager?
No, sir, but we do have our annual reports from our staff, so I would invite our staff to come forward. We'll start with fire, since Chief is right here.
That's why I sat on the front row.
That's because you're used to it.
Yes, ma'am. I always did in your class, that's for sure. I'll just go over my annual reports. You also have my fourth quarterly report as well in the packet. I'll apologize, I have to kind of switch my glasses so I can see here. I've not got my new glasses yet. The number of fire department responses per 1,000 population in the city last year was 130, and the number per 1,000 population in the district was 67. The average cost out the door per incident was $887. Every time we roll out the door, that's what it costs us. And that was just an average between the two districts. If you break it down, it comes out to be about $645 in the city and about $1,394 in the district. That's just because we run so many more calls in the city. When you compare this to the average cost per call in a study that the North Carolina School of Government done with some other fire departments in the state, the average is $1,700. So we are somewhat cheaper than the other fire departments, but we don't run as many calls as they do either. I mean, they're comparing Asheville and Greensboro and Charlotte, some of the bigger call districts. The number of actual fires per 1,000 population in the city was 3, and in the district was 2.75. So they're about even as far as the actual number of fires. The average turnout and travel time for the first due piece of equipment on any call in Black Mountain or the district was 4.74 minutes. That's a little higher than what the average, they would like it to be for, but yet then we're still just slightly above the average of 4.5, I believe, in the state. But that, you have to take into consideration every time we run to the end of High Rock Acres or Laurel Ridge or some outlying place, that cuts into our travel time. So that's why our number is not what we like it to be, around 4. But it's still a good response number for the citizens in the town. That means within 4 minutes, we're going to be on the scene with one piece of equipment. So that's actually good. Fire inspections completed per 1,000 populations with 145. They also grade us on inspections is in how many discrepancies we find when we do an inspection are either corrected or the fines are paid or whatsoever, and we have 100% of that, those corrections made within 30 days. And I believe that's it for my annual report. Do you have any questions?
I have one, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Do you by chance know the number of calls that you guys got for assistance to residents south of the railroad tracks?
No, I don't know that our reporting would allow us to differentiate from the streets on that side of the railroad tracks. I can do
in the city, out of the city. I could run them by street, you know, by one individual street name. I don't know that I can run one report that tells you everything on the south side of the railroad tracks.
But no general ideas to the response time for additional crews to come from the main station to assist the vehicle that's already over there. Say if there's a fire on Blue Ridge Road, so to speak, and your initial vehicle went to that fire, how long would it take for these crews from here to get over there? Just a wild estimate.
Probably the same amount of time, unless we're going to High Rock Acres or Lakey Gap Heights or High Top Colony or Blue Ridge Assembly or one of those. It's not going to be, I'm going to go on a limb and guess 6 minutes at the most.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'd like our town clerk to go next.
Good evening. I wore red for 2 reasons. The first one I wanted to talk about was Code Red. Many of you have already entered your information in the database, and I appreciate it. This past quarter, we initiated 2 Code Red alerts for separate road closures, and now additional staff, town staff, has been trained so that I'm not the only one that can alert you all of anything that might be happening in town. We all went through a webinar training in May, and so we're up to speed on the latest and greatest regarding Code Red. I personally was involved in the Lighten Up for Life with the town, and our team won first place. That was mentioned last quarter, but I wanted to redo it. And I'm still involved in the countywide Lighten Up for Life. That is the fitness wellness program. I also participated in the inventory of the Men's Golf Association Lounge. We went over there and checked off the list of everything that they had left there that was given into our care. And then recently the land use code has been sent to the municipal code for codification updates. That's real important for everyone on staff to have the current binder that has all the ordinances for the town of Black Mountain. And it's quite extensive. I forget how many pages the land use code, hundreds of pages, probably 200 or 300 pages. So it's taken a little longer for that to get done. I serve on a supporter role for both ADA compliance and the town square steering committees. I participated in the town employee disability awareness training. We had 2 different sessions. One was May the 2nd. The next one was a couple days after that, where we basically, the person from, and I've forgotten exactly what the name of the organization is, but Bart came and gave us pretty much the basic of how to interact with those that have disabilities, and just to be aware of that when we're working with the citizens and anyone that comes in contact with us. Also recently, I've worked with our IT consultant. His name is Bill Geddes, and this is a real update because it just happened today. We are able to use Adobe Pro, and by doing that and putting it in PDF format and having it on the website, you now can go on our website, and where it's usually eGov downloads, look up the agenda packet. The whole packet is there. Well, the latest and greatest now is there are links so that the boxes are around the certain, say for example, the consent agenda. If it has any documents that go along with that, if you click on that, that document will come up with it. So when you try it, practice, play with it. And if you have any suggestions, let us know. But I think that's going to be real helpful to get us into the next step of technology and also. Thank you very much.
Darlene, so what I'm hearing you say then is that someone was, let's say, moving to Black Mountain and they wanted to sign the kids up for swimming lessons, that they could download the applications from the Recreation Department through this Adobe?
That should already be in
That's
place. I was
Good.
speaking especially about the agenda packet, but yes.
Yeah, but I just wanted to.
That Rec
Okay.
Commission website is to where you can download the application,
Great.
because I did
Good.
that myself. Any other? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll stick with our administrative staff. Could I ask Dion Lytle to come forward and talk about some of the construction projects and ADA Advisory Committee?
Okay. My name is Dion Lytle, and good evening, board. There's two things I actually want to talk about today. A little bit, first and foremost, is about the golf course and the Golf Pro Snack Shop and ADA compliance there, and the things that's going on as far as ADA compliance overall. First and foremost, as you all know, the golf course is actually being renovated, and this actually has been deconstructed now. So they're actually starting to work on it. The outside deck, the outside part of it's already done. All the things that was not compliant, didn't have any compliance as far as commercial compliance, has now actually been taken out of there and they've been donated. The other things that we're actually going to use or keep has actually been stored in two places, one here at the town hall, the other at the Carver Community Center, and those are the tables and chairs and things of that nature. The bathrooms, as far as ADA compliance is now, they're actually going to have an ADA unisex bathroom that's going to be in the men's upstairs where the 19th hole used to be at. Both at the snack shop, the ADA compliance there for the bathrooms has actually been done. I actually checked it out today and it actually looks really good. The new existing wall has been extended and the bathroom has been open where they can be accessible, and the ventilation is actually working in there now, so you don't have those old problems that we used to have at the golf course. The other thing as far as ADA compliance is that all the facilities that now have actually been taken care of, not taken care of, but been looked at, and we've actually got a cost, an estimate of what needs to be replaced and what minor details that can actually be taken place there, which we've got to count on those as far as your door handles, your toiletry items, your seat raisings, the handrails, the grab rails. We've got a list of all those things that actually need to be taken care of so we can move forward with that. The last part that I want to talk about is give you an update is on the fire department. As you all know, if you have anybody's been to the backside of the fire department, you can actually see where the actual building has had some structural damage to it. On June the 30th, we've actually had Edward Medlock come out and take a look at the facility. They did a preliminary assessment on the building. They went back and had an ecologist come in and actually take a look and do some core samples. The core samples were actually done on July the 7th. In the front of the police department, there was 3 spots that they actually drilled. They did a drilling in front of the police department and 2 behind the fire department. By our surprise, when we first went out there, we looked at it. There was some wet spots that they hit about 9 feet down. The good news, we got the reports back in the day, is that the outside of it, the structure and the soil samples are not actually causing the damage in it. However, they do have to do some more drilling, which they will do actually Wednesday, inside the building and check the core slabs to see if there's any structural soil damage up under those core slabs, up under the fire department, to see what's causing those structural damage and actually causing the building to blow out. Is there any other questions? Any comments? Thank you.
Janelle Gray, our Human Resources Coordinator.
Mayor, board. I want to give my fourth quarter report for the HR department. This quarter, I also with Darlene attended the co-ed to help her to be her assistant. I attended the disability awareness training on May the 2nd and attended a webinar on May the 6th for the Blue Cross Blue Shield. This quarter was our enrollment for all of our employees' healthcare enrollments and their annual insurance enrollments for their dental health. And so we participated in those. Started the gathering all the information for our year-end audit and closed out the fiscal year-end payroll, entered all the new fiscal year-end entries for the dental health and life insurance. And since it is the fourth quarter, I thought I might hit on some of the highlights for the annual. Things that happened for the whole year in the HR department. We had a wonderful holiday party, which was prepared by the welcome table. We had plenty of fun, food, and fellowship. Also, we initiated a 16-week healthy living challenge to help our employees attain a healthy weight and healthy eating habits. We had 16 employees that completed the full 16-week challenge with a total weight loss of 136 pounds. This quarter, I've been working with AV Tech to organize our first satellite classroom, and registration is tomorrow afternoon. We've got 13 folks right now that are registered, and hopefully we'll be there for registration tomorrow night. We have helped to prepare the salary line items for the budget preparation, and regretfully handle the HR issues that coincided with the reduction in force due to the budget restraints, where we had to terminate 4 full-time and 2 part-time employees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Tipton will give our planning department update.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. For the fiscal year 2010-2011, we were able to collect $102,927.70 in building permit fees. I do want to let y'all know this does include all permits, new construction, renovations, plumbing, electrical, mechanical. We issued 497 permits and had 1,681 inspections. For privilege licenses, we issued 160 licenses and brought in $14,908.25. The majority of that was due to the electronic gaming fees that we implemented before those were actually banned. For our zoning department, for the year we had 32 permanent sign permits issued, 15 temporary sign permits issued, 61 complaints, 70 notices of violations, and 215 inspections. We collected $7,666.33 for permanent sign fees, $1,100 for temporary sign fees, and $1,650 for the review for signs. If you look at the chart that I created for you, this has been our best year for permits issued since fiscal year 07-08, when Ingalls Warehouse first got their permit. That also coincides with some of the fees that you see in 07-08, and then in 09-10 we had the Ingalls store, car wash, and gas station come in, and so that helped attribute to the high permit cost or permit fees collected. Some of the highlights for this quarter, we did hold 2 disability awareness trainings. They were sponsored by Disability Partners. Bart Floyd of Disability Partners came out and conducted both of those trainings for staff. I also attended the Code Red webinar training. We offered 2 educational classes held by On Track Financial Education and Counseling. They actually came out here for 2 Saturdays. They were held in the boardroom here, and Rosie Hilbert was actually our staff person who came and helped coordinate the event. I myself attended a tour of the recently completed Mountain Housing Central Avenue subdivision and the Bird Road homes that are currently under construction. This was in part of National Homeownership Month in June. Also in attendance, we had USDA Rural Development State Director Randall Gore, staff from the Mountain Housing Opportunities, and representatives from the offices of Congressman Heath Schuler and Senators Hagan and Burr. Also, the families of the completed homes and those under construction were there as well. It was a great little tour. We got to see the homes, kind of learn what the program was about. And it was just great to see these families and how things have turned out and see everybody working together to complete these homes. Rosa actually attended the Asheville Regional Housing Consortium meeting for our department this year. And we also sponsored a Home Buyers Expo in coordination with Christy Burns at First Citizens Bank. This expo was held at Lake Tomahawk and featured exhibits and vendors. It was to draw public interest about loan programs to encourage families to transition from renting to home ownership. Also, just for information, there will be a quasi-judicial workshop for our ZBA and our Historic Preservation Board Wednesday night here at Town Hall, and this will be provided by Ron Steen. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
The license issued, that's a privilege license?
Yes, ma'am.
160?
Yes, ma'am.
And how many businesses do we have? How delinquent are we at this point? You were going to make a special effort to collect the other privilege license?
Yes, at this point, we've received about $21,000 something of the, I want to say it was 29 or 30,000 that we billed out for this year, which is about normal for this time. Beginning next month, on the 15th, we'll actually begin adding interest to the licenses. At that point, they get their second notice. You know, you need to pay. We've had, and I can't tell you at this moment how many have canceled. Either businesses have closed or contractors just do one job and don't come back. But we are about on track where we normally are for this year. So
On track meaning percentage-wise?
We're probably about 40% at this point.
Collected, 40%?
I think it's important to note that Jennifer did a very good job of collecting. When you all asked this question last year, and we had initially quite a large list of delinquent permit holders, we ended the year with roughly five businesses that.
And that is now actually down to 4.
So out of that large group that you were dealing with last year, there are only 4 businesses that still remain delinquent.
That's great. Okay, one more question. Sure. Someone asked me today, or I would have asked staff earlier, the paper boxes that are along the streets, many on some streets, do those owners of those boxes, do they have a privilege license?
They actually
do they pay a fee at all?
They do not pay a fee at this time. We did implement a privilege license for the newspaper vendors, where I won't say vendors, the newspaper periodical boxes. I just have to get them a letter because that has to go out with the new rules regarding the spacing and how many you're allowed to have. I know that our former zoning administrator had done that. Now it's just time to follow up with that to get those boxes moved where they need to be for the appropriateness of the areas, but they will get a letter about the privilege license as
And what
well.
are the appropriate areas?
They're not allowed to have 6 or more, or more than 6 in an area. So we're trying to spread them out. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
If we could have our police report, I'm not sure, is it Lieutenant Paget or Sergeant Lytle? Both?
Good evening. You've already got our annual report, so there's no reason really going over that number. However, what we wanted to do was we wanted to break those down through our quarterly reports, which gives you that annual report numbers, and to show any significant types of changes or trends. So in breaking those down, our calls for service from the first quarter to the second quarter actually went down 13%. From the second to the third quarter, which the third quarter being January through March, it also went down another 6%. So it continually went down from the months of October through March. However, in April and June, it jumped back up 17%. So what the trend is basically April through September, of course, is our busiest months, and October through March is the slowest. You've got summer residents, you've got visitors, and most folks are just active in the summer months. So the calls for service as a whole pretty much stabilized after all the increases and decreases. The incident reports from the first quarter to the second quarter went down 19%. That's property crimes and such. From the second quarter to the third quarter, it went down another 37%, which is also really good. However, in the fourth quarter, which is April through June, it increased 63%. So there again, every time it drops off through the winter months, it increases through the summer months. Our citation charges between the first and second quarter dropped 28%, dropped another 10% in the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter again, it came back up to 35%, so you see the trend. Total arrests from the first to second quarter dropped 24%. In the third quarter, it did increase. That's the first increase of 12% on arrests, and another 13% again April through June, the fourth quarter. One notable is our traffic accidents, and here's another trend that actually is different from the rest. The traffic accidents have steadily decreased throughout the year. From the first quarter to the second quarter, it dropped 4%. In the third quarter, it dropped 14%. And in the fourth quarter, it dropped another 12%, which basically dropped right at 30%. And that's due to aggressive or traffic control, getting out there, getting folks to be a little more aware of stop signs and reduce their speed, and which in result actually decreased the traffic accidents, and hopefully we can keep folks safe. Our DWIs, however, has increased steadily through the whole quarters. From the first quarter to the second quarter, it increased 30%. From the third quarter, it increased another additional 7%, and then it stayed steady through the fourth quarter, which is an total increase of 37%. So those have went up. Any questions on what we'd like to do the next year? Of course, we're going to continue to do more traffic. We'd like to reduce those traffic accidents even more. Yeah.
Good evening. Just to reiterate what the Lieutenant said, our upcoming goals for Black Mountain Police Department, I'm going to go over them with you to follow what he said. The training goals for the police department in the upcoming year is focusing on these categories. These categories is being traffic investigations, for one. The second would be Police Law Institute, which actually deals with North Carolina case laws, search warrants, stuff of that nature. The fundamentals of investigation process, dealing with your property crimes, and also incorporated with that was going to be the ID tech, which is processing the crime scenes, fingerprinting, lifting prints, stuff of that nature, photographs, and all that. The last thing would be leadership classes to implement that, and as the department goes on, we want to use these training categories to enhance the department even more. Any questions or suggestions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Combs, our Public Services Director.
Mayor and Board, I just completed my 10th month here, and I must say that I've enjoyed my tenure here. We've made a lot of progress. If you'll look at the work orders completed in the streets and parks area, in 2008, 2009, they completed 107, and then this last fiscal year, 1,345. So there's a significant increase just in the streets and parks area alone. Water, 138 2 years ago, 400 this year. So a lot of good work is being done. I have good people, good staff. I'm especially proud of Jamie Matthews, who's really stepped up as operations manager, keeping things going in terms of the work order and how the job's getting done. Going to the water department, the water usage over the last 15 months, we're basically using 575,000 gallons a day. We are losing about 151,000 gallons a day, so we're working on that every day to try to minimize the water loss. Just to give you some point of comparison, the city of Asheville loses somewhere around 40%. So, and that's not water that's just lost. That's water that's not charged and leaks and other kinds of things. We repaired 68 water leaks in the last 12 months, and then a Department of Environment and Natural Resources report for our sanitary well study is we had no violations noted. So Mr. Mark White's doing a very good job managing the wells and the reservoir system up there. We've replaced 100% of the town's meters, so all of our meters are less than 2 years old. That means that we can begin to accurately measure what kind of water is going out that way. We've flushed 441 hydrants, painted and marked them, and we're also using a new thermoplastic material on the ground. Chief Jones just complimented me on that this evening. It's an H that's in the road. If you see those on the road, it's reflective. It's not painted on, so that it'll last about a decade. And hopefully as firefighters, when they're driving to the scene at night, it'll be more visible to them when they need to access a hydrant for water. So we're very happy with that. In terms of storm response events, we've done a lot of extensive tree and debris removal due to some microbursts in May and then another one in June. I must brag on the town of Montreat and Asheville, who unsolicited came to our aid on both events. There's a picture on the center bottom where Asheville brought their equipment out, worked with us for 2 days, and in 2 days we cleaned this town up, what would have taken us several weeks if we'd done that alone. So we're beginning to partner with our local communities, and it's much to our citizens' advantage. The snow program went very well this year. We did a mutual aid agreement with the NCDOT, bought our bulk sand and salt from the city of Asheville, put 2 new F-250 snow plows in, and then rounded and did some administrative things to make the snow removal more efficient. Parks maintenance was transferred to my department February 7th, and in that time, you'll note from those photographs, we've done some storm drain improvements at Lake Tomahawk. At the Clevenger site, we've removed a lot of trees and stumps and worked diligently on a new water system, which I'm hoping will be working this week. It's ready to go. Some trail refurbishment. We worked on the Little League area and put some gravel down and got that going. New trash cans, and then I scheduled for the resurfacing of Forest Hills Drive, which that contract's been live. The Bear Smart program is moving smartly along, which is good because I almost hit a bear the other day, beating up a garbage can near my home. But that's moving along very well. And then moving over to garbage, we collected 3,276 tons, recycled 16.36% of that, or 536 tons. And our yard waste was 13.3%. Of course, that didn't go to the landfill. In terms of what our focus is for next year, basically I'm challenging my staff, what can you do better, cheaper, and faster? That's the way we think every day. How can we do something better, cheaper, and faster? We say it over and over again to ourselves. I'm going to focus on training skills. We're going to focus on ditching. We have a little track hoe and a ditching type of bucket so we can dig the ditches out. We're lining up our tree trimming for the winter, formalizing our PM programs and overall efficiencies, especially in water and parks. And I'm also developing the leadership, and then just signed a contract today to digitize the water system and information system for the future. So I'm very proud of my staff. They've done a very good job. They get 98% of that. Any questions?
Where do we stand on the Firefly project? The project where we could just drive down the street and read the meter?
Oh, that was before my time, and
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this board discussed that at your last retreat, and we spoke to you of the problem with the equipment. We have a very high failure rate, and that at your direction, that has been abandoned as a program. We did not take delivery of the remaining Fireflies under that program. So we are back to hand reading, manually reading meters, but we find that that is actually more efficient at this point than having to do the rereads on faulty meters.
The faulty reads on the meters coming from the drive-by, are we still able to go ahead and use the same meters and manually do it, or did we have to replace those meters that had the Firefly attachments to them?
The meters are still in use. Those are fine. It's just the Fireflies themselves that are not functional.
Okay. Of the total amount, and I think it was what, $270,000 is what this cost. Did we pay for the full amount?
No, we did not. We did not pay for any of those that were not taken delivery of.
But I mean, but we still owe about $270,000.
Because you finance, this was before my time also, and I'm not sure of the exact arrangements, but you finance that entire amount. We did not have to pay off the remainder of that loan at the time that we abandoned the Fireflies.
But I mean, but the loan,
The loan is still, yeah.
the loan is still about
It is still out there,
$270,000.
yes.
So not the other. The other thing is, when you said you replaced all the meters, were you speaking of commercial meters? Or are you speaking of commercial, or just residential, or all water meters?
Early last winter, I discovered that a good portion of the meters, of the older meters that were worn out, 25 or 30 years old, were replaced. But there was a balance of meters that were elderly and probably not very efficient in terms of reading that needed to be replaced. And those are the meters that my staff replaced this spring. And there were new brass manual read type of meters.
Commercial.
And 2-inch meters as well. Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Renee Mastrangelo to give our recreation update.
Good evening. Darlene, do you have the PowerPoint available?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. So for
And
your
we're having slight
technical difficulties.
technical
I heard.
difficulties. Our slides are speeding by.
Well, I'll read real fast. We had a great year in the Recreation and Parks Department. We were busy as normal. We are going to start by discussing athletics. And by going through these slides, it doesn't by any means discuss every program or special event that we've offered. It just covers the highlights of what we've done in 2010 and 11. So you can see in athletics, youth basketball had 20 teams and 180 participants. Indoor soccer had 11 teams with 101 participants. Adult basketball had a record of 10 teams, and Start Smart Soccer had 77 participants. And you can see the photos underneath kind of correspond with what I'm talking about. Senior Center, at the Lakeview Senior Center, which is where my office is located if you're not familiar with myself. I'm the person responsible for Senior Center programming and special events for the town. So on an average month, we have about 21 classes. The nutrition site, which is upstairs and sponsored by the Buncombe County Council on Aging, averages about 25 seniors a day. And if you're not familiar with the lunch site, it is a donation-only program with a suggested donation of $1.50 a day if you are able to provide that. And Mountain Mobility does provide transportation to a large group of the folks that come and eat lunch there. We did offer a week-long motor coach trip this year. We went to New Orleans in April, and I had 40 seniors go, and this is the 5th year that we've done that. Special events, we have 8 yearly, with a total of 4,960 participants, an average of 620 per event. All the events except for the Valentine 5K are free. Most recently, we had the 4th of July street dance that was downtown on the 4th, and we're currently going through Park Rhythms, which is a hugely successful free concert series at Lake Tomahawk. every Thursday night. This is the 16th year we've been doing park rhythms. Health and wellness. Carolyn Freiberger, if you don't know her, is responsible for health and wellness, and a couple of my co-employees have talked about the Healthy Living Challenge, which was really successful, and I'm sure we will attempt to do that again. 16 town employees participated with a total pound lossage of 134 pounds. You can see the photo on the left there of the winning team. The community garden has received $7,500 in grants this year. Two greenways have been completed with a total of 1 mile. Last but not least, we have aquatics. A lot of you are familiar with our new pool, and it has been hugely successful. Very popular place to be in the summer. It has the information that we have here. You can see the asterisk is just for 2011 up to June 30th. So the pool has generated $22,840 in daily fees. The concession stand has brought in nearly $5,000. Overall, the pool has been visited nearly 9,000 times. Swim lessons have been filled 27 of the 29 spots, and as of now, I think the pool, we are on a waiting list for pool rentals, so that has changed since this has gone to print. But that covers the majority of our programs for the Parks and Recreation Department. Like I said, that was just the highlight. We have a lot going on. It's a great park to work for.
Renee, could you also mention the importance of sponsorships to the special events?
Absolutely. Many of our special events are sponsored by local businesses in Black Mountain. The 4th of July Street Dance was sponsored by Family Care Home, Dr. Cargile over on Highway 70. She, the last 2 years, has graciously donated all the funds that we require to hold that event. I believe that if it wasn't for her, we really wouldn't have been able to have fireworks. And I have received so many comments about how wonderful the fireworks were this year, so I know the community has enjoyed them. And then Park Rhythms, if you come to the show, you'll hear me announce all the sponsors of that event. Again, local businesses pledge their monetary support, which then returns go into the event of paying the bands, security, advertising of that event. A lot of people think that the bands perform for free, and that is definitely not the case. We pay them, and we pay them well. And they deserve to be paid because we get great bands. And so local businesses each year religiously help support that event, and we would not be here without them. Any questions?
How many days is the pool open?
How many days is the pool open? Total, I don't know. It opens Memorial Day weekend, and then is open limited hours until school goes out. Once school is out, 7 days a week. And then once school goes back into session, we are open, again, limited hours until mid-September.
So it's roughly 23,000 for the year.
Correct. Any other questions? Casey, did you have a comment about that?
We were closed 2 days in June, so May 28th through June, we were closed 2 days.
Roughly 90 days.
Yeah.
So the figure that you have up there, that figure is from last year, or is that this year that you're extrapolating through the 90 days? Is that what you're figuring? What?
No, that's just the figure for this year, and that's just for the first first month.
That's just for June.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The participant numbers sheet that you guys were given has last year's numbers on it.
Okay.
Marcy, I'd like to really take this opportunity to thank the employees. I think all the citizens here see what a busy staff we have and what all they're doing on very, very limited budgets and funding. And also Mark and Thomas and Daniel and Dion, they need to be commended for going the extra mile. It's great to know we have employees that take their time and go out and get all these extra classes in, etc. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I am very proud of this staff. They are all very hard workers. They are a can-do staff. They have been challenged They continue to perform in a challenging environment. There is nothing that this group can't do, and I'm very proud of their accomplishments on behalf of the town.
Any communications from the board?
One follow-up. I don't see a report from the golf course. Have we lost any tournaments because of the closure of the 19 hole?
None that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? In the workshop in June, Marcia, you told us you're working on how to collect this $6 fee for garbage.
Yes, sir.
How's that?
We are looking at several different options. We're looking at the possibility of adding that to water bills, and since we don't have all of Black Mountain residents as Black Mountain water customers, we are looking at working with the city of Asheville to bill. We are also looking at the possibility of having that billed through the Buncombe County Tax Office on the tax bills. And then our third alternative is to build our own database of all local residents. So our finance staff is looking at all three alternatives, and we'll come back to you with a specific proposal. No, not yet.
Citizen comments, let's see, I think we've got 3. Dan.
My name's Dan Watson. I live in Black Mountain on Lookout Terrace, also in business here. I have a few things I want to talk about. One's the newspaper boxes being a problem. There's a lot of trash around, and I counted 14 boxes by the hardware store. 6 of them were empty, and a lot of trash around those boxes too. I have a concern that not only are those boxes on city property, but every one of those publications, those people come into my store and sell advertising, or try to sell me advertising. Now, this is people coming into our town. They're using our police protection, our fire protection, our water and sewer systems, and our roads. And there should be something there to look into so that I have to buy a usage license for my business, and these people should do the same. Also, too, there's an issue of sales tax. I went to a local tailgate market this past weekend, and I do understand that when a produce comes from farm to market, there's no sales tax. However, when I went to the tailgate market, I saw it looked like a flea market, and merchandise was trading hands, merchandise that I sell in my store, Seven Sisters, Cherry Street Gallery, and a few other ones, and even Ruth Brandon's store, that were changing hands, and I did not see any sales tax being collected. If that sales tax is collected, where is it being paid to? Is it being paid to Black Mountain? These people are using our police protection, our fire protection, our roads, and our sewer. And there should be something there, and we should be benefiting by that sales tax one. And that's not to mention the fairs as well, craft fairs, Sourwood Festival, all those things fall into that same category. Last month when Dean showed us those figures of the sales tax on that screen, when that figure goes up, my salary goes up. When that figure goes down, my salary goes down, just like every merchant in this town. And I'd like to thank City Council for the plight of the town taxpayer, seeing that the budget that was presented last month in the town square. And I thank Mr. Sobel for bringing the much needed parking issue up, that this cannot be at the burden of the taxpayers. I do appreciate anyone wanting to make our town more attractive. Litter has been a big problem since I've been here. And I think we have a common ground here with everybody wanting this park, and some people don't want it. And somehow there has been sides, those who do, those who don't. And I think we can meet common ground here. And I looked at the town center webpage the other day, and I was impressed with what I saw. A 50-50 deal. It works good. I think we have to meet the common ground here. And there will be plenty of opportunities to make our town more attractive. We can be sure of that. and the community that has been created here. And I feel that this is Black Mountain, where all the men are strong, the women are good looking, and all the children are above average.
Exactly what office are you running for, Dave? Come early. Dave Landon.
Oh, Lord, he'd make quite a mayor, wouldn't he? Dave Landy, 208 Paget Town. The gentleman who spoke this evening in favor of the town square, and Mr. Gell certainly did a good job in terms of getting the town square proponents out tonight. Ms. Brown's told me last month, you people who are against this, you better show up next month because they're all going to come and yell at us for last month's vote. There is the common ground from the point of view that the gentleman did speak in terms of saying, it seemed almost a throwaway remark, but he did say, well, I would chip in towards that. In a sense, that there certainly is a lot of common ground here, that those of us who oppose the idea of the taxpayers being burdened with this, and those who believe that the taxpayers should pay for it, we certainly do have the common ground that it would be an attractive thing. If there is any way that there could be some sort of a volunteer type fundraising thing that could happen in this direction, that would certainly be a valuable thing. I know that many people have spoken in terms of saying, okay, let's try to preserve a small piece of this at least, if it were to get sold. Certainly, it's a valuable idea. Even though I oppose the darn thing, I would give money for it. I do, I absolutely oppose it. And I think it's very regrettable that we're talking about 6 families who end up losing jobs over this thing. That's a very sad thing in this particular economic environment that we're talking about, 6 town employees being laid off. If there's any way to pursue the common ground of perhaps people coming together and trying to raise money for at least a portion of it to be used as a park, I think that's a great idea. Thanks a lot.
Elaine?
Elaine Watson-Heiser, 410 Avena Road. I'd like to ask if you follow through on the procedure or the tradition or whatever it is that when people speak to you that they announce where they live, because a number of the speakers who spoke tonight did not do that. I don't know if they live in the town of Black Mountain or if they live outside the town of Black Mountain, but that's one thing that I thought that was a requirement. I'd like to address too the traditional housing or the transitional housing. I have taught GED in tradition or transitional housing for men for about 5 to 6 years. I taught in 2 different places up at Ridgecrest. I was up there by myself for 3 hours from 6 to 9. Those men had to sit in couches. They didn't even have tables to sit at. They sat on couches lined up along the walls with their books in their laps for their work. And I taught that. I didn't have any fear, or they didn't do anything to me. They didn't go out. And that was in Ridgecrest, where people are there for conferences. And I just hate to see anybody go away from this meeting tonight and think that this is going to be a terrible, terrible thing. I would live next door to those guys. And they were all men. They weren't women. These were men. And First Inc. does a lot of jobs around this town. The other was Recovery Ventures, and I don't know that they've been quite as successful. But I taught in both of those places, and there was nothing but good experiences that I had with them. They looked after me like I was their mother. I wished I had been sometimes, because they were good, meaningful men. And I just feel like that I don't want to see the newspaper or the television people have gone so that side of it won't be included tonight. Thank you.
Darlene, everyone had their address on this sheet except Elaine, so. you've got it.
That's because my name wasn't on it to begin with.
There's no objection. I'm going to declare this meeting adjourned. Adjourned.
Good.